Hey everyone, what is going on? Elvis here. Today I'm going to show you guys my Elite Barb build. I have to say, this is probably like one of the funnest characters out of all of the classes right now to play with this particular build too. So it's really fun. So let's jump into it. Now, first of all, I'm going to go over the skills. But before I do, I'll just show you some really quick gameplay. Just so you can see how it works, so it makes a lot of sense. We'll just jump into a Torment 10 Rift and we'll just go and kill one Elite Pack and then bail. Let's jump in. Okay, so let's go over some of the skills right now. Now, first of all, we're going to be using Earthquake. Now, the reason why we are actually keeping this active in a slot is so we can get this particular rune, because it's very, very effective. All enemies within 24 yards are pulled towards you. It's just really, really good, guys, if you're doing greater rifts. Now, one of our biggest DPS dealers is Boulder Toss, and I'll talk about why that is a little bit later and how you can maximize this, but it's pretty simple. Expend all remaining Fury to deal 20% damage per Fury point that you've got. So it's a lot of damage. It also blasts all of your Fury in one go. So if you have a tiny little bit of life on hit, it's the same as drinking a potion. Let me show you how that works real quickly. So, I pop this and I can chuck it straight away, and it's amazing. Now, next up, we're using Warcry 100% for the defense. It also does proc Earthquake and Avalanche. So we're going to be using extra resistance. It is a little bit tough to get resistance on your Barbarian. And just a really basic tip, guys. Always try and match your armor and your resistance together to get the maximum amount of defense that you can out of these two stats. That's like really basic shit, but I thought I'd include it. Anyway, so when you drop your Warcry, it drops Avalanche, these rocks, and also the Earthquake as well. The same goes for Threatening Shout. Now I'm using this rune. I think it's so overpowered. Enemies instead take 25% increased damage for 6 seconds. That's quite a long time, guys. 6 seconds. Really, really effective. I like it. The cooldown's pretty low too. 10 seconds, pretty much nothing. And has the same effect as Warcry. Drops Avalanche and your Earthquake as well. Next up, I'm using Battle Rage, mainly for some extra defense. Now, it depends how high you're pushing in Greater Rifts. You can spec towards Iron Skin if you want to, Ignore Pain if you want to get a little bit more defense. And it's definitely, an option you should consider. Also, if you're doing like normal basic rifts, you might want to, if your DPS is good enough, you might want to swap this out for Sprint or something like that. But Leap tends to be pretty okay for traversing distances. Like, you can go pretty quick. And that amount of distance, you tend to get from one pack to another. So movement speed isn't a really big issue anyway. So we're going to jump on to Leap. Now, you definitely don't want to use Iron Impact Rune. You want to use one of these four, and I'll explain that a little bit later too. It honestly doesn't really matter. Whatever tickles you guys, whatever you like. You can go for Stun if you want. I really do like that. Let's just go with that one for now anyway. Now, really quickly over the passives. Rampage. A ton of DPS boost because of the strength. Animosity. This is going to help because we want to have as much Fury coming in and out at the same time as possible. So this increases all Fury generation by 10%, increase maximum Fury by 20%, by 20. That's a really big deal. Now remember this one here, Ancient Spear. The more Fury that you have, the more damage this does. So having that extra 20 is really, really good. Now we've also got this one here, Earth and Might. Gain 30 Fury when Avalanche or Earthquake is triggered. Now, if we look at this one here, it's going to generate 15 Fury. Right now, I have around about 20, so let's drop it. I obviously got a shitload more Fury, and that's really great when we're launching our Ancient Spear, and once again, getting the health back. It's just a really good loop of skills that all kind of work together in synergy. That pretty much finishes it up. The last one is Ruthless. This one is kind of tricky because the numbers look really, really awesome. When you do the math, it's still really good, but it's not as crazy as you think. But in my opinion, still is the best in slot for that last section anyway. So let's quickly go over the gear. Now, I want to give you guys a heads up. I am missing one particular item, and that is the main weapon. So deal with me. I'll talk about it, though. I have got one in here that I can show you. So anyway, now what you want to do is basically, yeah, chuck on the full 6-piece set of this. We don't want to run Royal Ring of Grandeur. We need the slots for something else. And the set basically explains itself. The best thing that you should keep in mind is that increase the damage of Earthquake, Avalanche, Leap, and Ancient Spear, Seismic Slam, blah, 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 by 800%. Very, very high. That's where the damage is going to come from when you're chucking them everywhere, jumping around, dropping avalanches on everything. The spear, it's just fucking awesome. That's really how the set works. Now, for our belt, we're actually going to be using this one. Why would we want to use this? Ground Stomp causes an avalanche, and you can clearly see I'm not using Ground Stomp. For the number one stat right there, I can't really mouse over it, increases avalanche damage by 183%. It goes up to 200, by the way. That's just a massive damage booster. If we're going to be using avalanche with these two skills, and earthquake, by the way, it's worth stacking up the damage. It makes a really big difference, and that's why we use it. Now, as far as slots go, this is a really good spot to put life per fury spent. You don't need a lot, to be honest, just a little bit, and you're going to get a huge amount of health back just because of this. Don't go overboard, by the way, too. Keep in mind that the only, fury spenders that we've got are these two. So, it's not like you're going to be pumping it out all the time with Whirlwind or, you know what I mean? Yeah, don't go too crazy with that particular stat. For the amulet, run whatever you want. Obviously, a Hellfire amulet is going to be the best in this particular spot here. Now for the braces, increase the damage of Ancient Spear Boulder Toss by 100%. When your Boulder Toss hits 5 or fewer enemies, the damage is increased by 122%. Goes up to 150. This is a really bad roll, by the way. But yeah, you want to stack physical damage as well. This is where, yeah, this thing just does so much damage, guys. And here's a quick little tip. With your Paragon points, spec into Max Fury again. If you can, fit it on your gear, or it just happens to be there, leave it there. It's quite fine. Now, I am using this particular set here as well, the Bastions of Will. Pretty straightforward. When you hit with a resource spending attack, deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. Really effective, so you do want to constantly be pushing out your ancient spears as much as possible. So pretty much gone over the basic stuff here. Let's talk about the weapon. Now, as I mentioned, I don't have the weapon I need. The weapon I do actually need is this. Unfortunately, I wish I could reverse the rolls. I was running the Seismic Slam build, so I did actually cube this one, but the reason why it's better to have this active is because it has a similar stat like the belt. Increase Earthquake by up to 200% damage. I could literally double my DPS just from using that one weapon active. And yeah, I'll probably find it in a couple of days anyway, so it won't be too bad. But what you do want to do when you are running that active is just chuck in a furnace or whatever you want for the weapon in the cube instead. Extra damage to elites is always great. Once again, man, fuck, I wish I had the weapon for this video, but yeah, the damage is just incredible. You've seen the gameplay on that little bit of gameplay I showed off earlier on. I was killing stuff fairly quickly anyway. Yeah, with that weapon, it's going to be pretty insane. Let's talk about the legendary gems. I always kind of forget these, but let's jump into it. Pretty straightforward, guys. Bane of the Stricken. Each enemy attack, you get an extra little bit of damage there, but the big one is 25% increased damage against bosses like the Rift Guardian. I find that Leap is a very slow burn, and the spear is kind of a bit of a burst. So it really does help on the Rift Guardians to get them down quite quick. And with this passive as well, when they get down to that last 30% life, they die very quickly. And as you guys know, some of them change their skills when they get pretty low. So keep that in mind too. Now the next gem is this one, Bane of the Powerful. This might just be me, guys. I really like this gem. If you want to go defensive, you should definitely go for the Resistance gem instead. Well, I can't be fuck finding it, but it's in there somewhere. I like this one at the moment because I'm still in the lower Grifts. I'm doing Greater Rift 60-ish area, so yeah, it still makes sense to me to stack more DPS just to get up to the higher Greater Rifts quickly. Then I'll start focusing on the defense, but in the meantime, yeah, if you're in the same position as me, just chuck on one of these gems. It's really, really good. I like it as well. And the last gem in my terrible amulet. Can't wait to get a better one, but yeah, anyway, this one here, the Bane of a Trap, very straightforward. Increases your damage under the effects of control, pairing effects, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I will say about this. Gain an aura that reduces movement speed of the enemies by 15 yards by 30%. That's what's going to trigger the extra damage. Now, if you're curious about 15%, 15 yards, it's roughly about that big. So you don't have to be fucking right up there, but you do have to be pretty close. Okay, so next up, we're going to go for the loot socks. Now, these are a pain in the ass to find. They are very essential, though. You do have to have them if you want to pull this build off. You can run something else instead of this. I recommend if you don't have the loot socks, don't go for the Leap Barb build. Go for the Seismic Slam version instead. You'll get more out of it. But, you know, until you find the loot socks. But once you do get them, they're awesome. Now, when it comes to rings, you've got two options. I won't go into a lot of detail, but basically you want to run Band of Might. I've got a separate video talking about that. That should be up, I don't know, in a day or two, or if not now already. But definitely want to be running this one. Just note that this isn't, if you look at the legendary effects, after casting Furious Charge, Ground Stomp, or Leap, reduce damage by up to 60%. Just note that they don't stack. You can't go Furious Charge, Ground Stomp, Leap, and then it all fucking stacks up. Doesn't work like that whatsoever. And that basically wraps it up. I think I've covered pretty much everything. If you're curious about how high you can actually push with this particular build, I don't know, to be honest. Like, I can only talk about with my gear setup that I've done right now. I mean, missing the main item, the main weapon in the game, I can comfortably do Greater Rift 60 like I did 59 or 58 or some shit like that with heaps of time left over. I mean, yeah, once you get the weapon, obviously, you know, optimizing all of the gear. None of this is ancient. My Paragon's 400, pretty low. The amulet's pretty turd too. I really think you can go very, very high with this build. If I can do it easily, if I can do 60 easily with my optimized gear, then yeah, it's got a lot of potential. I can't wait to optimize my gear and explore the build even further and pushing even as far as I can. Anyway, guys, that about wraps it up. There's the build. Thanks for joining me as always. If you want to see some more Diablo 3 stuff, subscribe, stick around for some more videos. Catch you later, guys.